Hey, so we should be live. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know if the audio is coming through okay. I'm gonna listen to myself just to make sure. I haven't streamed with OBS for a while now. Okay, good. I think it's okay. I think I'm fine. I can't increase the volume. I don't know why. Sorry about that. Hopefully it's good enough. Hey, Jan's art. So this is gonna be. I don't display the chat on the screen. We'll see it to the side. Thank you for being here. Hey, Hanny, hoping to paint along with you. Love these night scenes and the skill with all the red washes. Oh, thank you. Jan's art. Looking forward to today's live. Dwayne, hey, Liron, thanks for doing this. Cup of coffee in hand, starting the day in the best way. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's a bit early, I know. It's like last week's live stream. Sorry about that. It's just the time that works better now, especially with the baby. It's better to start early. So yeah, we have this scene here. I'll do my best to paint it. It's not gonna be a final painting. The idea today is to do practice sketches to be prepared for the final thing, because you know what, this is a challenging scene. This is something I've been, sitting on. I did one failed attempt that I want to share with you. I think I have it somewhere here. Yeah, there we go. So check it out. This I showed, some people really liked it, but I have to admit, like, this is a mess. It really is a mess. And of course, it's very just creative. I kind of went with what I felt like, showing. Hopefully you can see it now better. But the main issue with this is, if you look at the grays, they don't communicate well enough, in my opinion. They don't tell the story enough. I think I should have a scan of this if you want to better see it later on. But the idea is to improve upon this and to start with more humble attempts, basically. I do have this little sketch I did that's ready to paint, but I'm keeping that. That's today we're gonna learn, and then I can hopefully apply that. Maybe film, we'll see. I managed to film and still stay focused really well lately, so it might work. We'll see about that. Devark, hey, hope you're doing well. Wildlife rocks. Great, thanks for holding this session, Liron. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Hey, Police Arts, how are you doing? It sounds like I said police. Polly's Art. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, we're gonna let some more people come in, and then we'll get started. In the meantime, I can show you the scan of this one, if I can find it, It's just sometimes the gray colors don't really work. They don't communicate or tell the story well, and it's fine, it's okay. It's not a disaster, but it is something I want to improve on. Not to mention, the wet and wet technique and all of that. That's a big thing to improve to. So this is it. Let me just place it here in the corner. So that's where this one's at. Of course, a lot to improve with this one. Just the nature of it, I don't usually paint things like this. I wanted this to be really loose and free. I really like this car, like the car on the left. I think it works well. But there's quite a lot to do here. Ruth is here with me, by the way. I don't think you'll be able to see her. Wait a second. Yeah, so she's here. Chilling. So yeah. But in any case, yeah, that's what we're gonna paint. I think we can pretty much jump into it. I'm gonna switch over to the desk in a second, but yeah, a challenging scene. I kind of like the way the car at the bottom looks too, so let me show you here. I can point to it. I kind of like this area, and I really like this one. This takes a bit of work, and arguable. This is a pretty interesting one. We'll see how it goes. Now, one thing I did want to analyze the photo with you for just 1 second. Check this out. So the black and white version really clearly shows how radiant light works. This is just a quick tip before we get started. Hey, John, by the way, thank you so much for being here. Hey, Lauren, hope you're well, my friend. Congratulations on your painting TARP 2. It's actually TARP 2 being accepted, my friend. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was accepted to American Watercolor Society's online exhibition for 2025. That's just for associate members. It's not for signature members. So someone like Joseph Zbukvich cannot submit. It's just for us. Small fries. So yeah. So in any case, what you see here is it's very interesting with the black and white version really visualizes how the red taillights, they actually radiate light out. So when you look at this area with the red taillights, just the car on the right? I can't point to it really well, but here, there's the dot where it's just white, and we can add that later on with opaque paint. There's a lot of ways to do that, but everything around it, it has this light radiating out, making things lighter. So what you get is, check this out, this is dark, right? The sky, whatever, at night, but this area where my finger should point is lighter. And that's kind of an effect I would like to preserve. We'll see how it goes. It's not an easy piece, which is why we're doing this. I think, just on another side note, it's really could be beneficial for you to watch how I go through these kinds of processes of exploration, right? I don't know really how I'm going to structure things. I kind of explore and see where it takes me. Okay, so let's switch over to the desk view. I'm going to move over there. And here I am. And we'll just go for it. I can see the chat here. Hey, Laura, hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. I think the audio, no, it still works, right? It still works in this view. I tested it like a million times just to make sure, but let me just confirm real quick. Yeah, okay, we're good. So let's get to it. So the way I thought I'm gonna do this is by doing quick thumbnails to start us off. And this is what we're gonna do. So I would like to test out just overall compositions. So I think we could kind of fit 2 thumbnails. I don't really have a method for doing these things. I'm testing out ideas here with you. So I'm gonna have 2 thumbnails just to see the big picture, okay? And the road kind of goes at this height. This is fun. You can really quickly sketch 2 scenes side by side. We have the main car that could honestly just kind of be a square almost, or just a rectangle like this. Then we have the other car. If you want to put a little more effort in it, you can. You don't have to. But just to show the overall kind of structure, you see? These are 2 cars, and we have the hood of our car, basically. So it goes like this. And maybe there are a couple of details there, but we honestly won't have enough room to include all of that. Okay? And we have some of the taillights kind of receding into the distance. So we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side, and we're going to test iterations, basically. Now, the beautiful thing about doing these studies is you're almost relying on your instinct. You don't really have much room to put in details, so it almost forces you to just see things in as simple manner as possible. Now, everything is pretty big. No, I think it's good. This could be smaller, like the 2 cars here, but that's fine. You're almost forced to just rely on instinct and kind of see where it takes you, which I find to be very freeing, actually. Hey Shibu, hope you're doing well. Hey Linda Sawal, hey, thank you for being here. And Linda Ecker, hello from Texas, thank you for being here. So yeah, so this is gonna be it, and then we're gonna have the receding taillights into the distance, right? So this kind of makes us feel like we're being maybe hopefully pulled into the scene, these lights, right? Perspective. So let's experiment maybe with 2 different processes. One could be more of a straightforward wet and wet. By the way, you have the benefit of me cleaning my palette, because I was planning on doing, again, this version. That's, you see, let's say my sketch is scarce, right? I don't want to force myself into too many commitments early on with this one. Maybe you'll see it better here, I'm not sure, no. But yeah, so you see it's a very scarce sketch. This was meant to be like more of the final version, but we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do these, and then I have another piece of paper we can just do a bit of a larger one, or maybe we can do it here. The idea is, again, this is studying, this is figuring things out. One of those things you want to figure out is colors. So I have this just scrap piece of paper, and if I want to just see what the colors look like, there is definitely a red here. And by the way, I'm not going to make this mistake. I'm going to pre-wet all of my wells now. Make sure they're quite moist, because I'm going to need the color to awaken very easily. So I'm spraying a lot of water on them and kind of letting it sit as I talk. By the way, notice how just spraying water makes the colors more visible. Everyone says my palette's a mess and you can't tell what the colors are. Well, they're kind of right, but spraying water really puts it in different light. Now, the way I look at it, there's a lot of warmth in the scene, so we're not probably gonna have just blues, right? The blues are gonna stick out like a sore thumb. what we're gonna have is very warm reds, very warm yellows, and then neutrals in the middle, maybe on the verge of being violety purple. So I think like an easy red, we can just reach into this one, and we can bring back some of the, or maybe Pyrrole Scarlet, and we can bring back some stronger reds later on, but if we could use this as maybe a basic red, and then maybe we could use my just warm yellow for the warms. That works pretty well. Now notice what happens if I introduce lunar black. So lunar black will stick out if not mixed properly with the rest of the colors, but I do find that this black is, it's more warm, and that actually plays in our favor because the scene is warm. If we want to cool it off a bit, something like a bit of a violet here and there could work, and when I look at the scene, it actually fits nicely with what I'm seeing. Now, could we do with a bit of ultramarine here in various limited sections? I think we could. So you see, this is what kind of my color scheme that I'm aiming for. And then what we want to do is probably mix enough together with the color so that the black looks like a part of the scheme, or we could just use a lot of the paint, maybe add a bit of blue to the mix. And what we want to do essentially is trap the lights, okay? So just showing you my bit of thought process on this, right? We want to trap the lights. Now the beautiful thing about these thumbnails is that they're very quick. So you could do a lot of experimentation really fast, you know, before you blink, the painting is done. So what I'm gonna do is just lay down some paint and see where it takes us. The easiest place to start, in fact, let me switch over to a smaller brush. I think we can pretty much get away with that here. The easiest place to start would be the red, funny enough, you know, because it really stands out. And then let's do a first version that is wet on dry. So my paper is dry, you saw I didn't re-wet it. And let's see what happens. I'm not gonna mask anything out. I'm not gonna try and prevent highlights from being covered. What I'm doing is I'm trying to find the balance of placement, of composition, of colors, or all of that good stuff. So I have my reds, and then maybe I'm gonna have some of my yellows, right? And again, this is such a small piece of paper that things are gonna work quite well. There's a bit of yellow here, right? And then there's a bit of red underneath that you see is kind of reflected down on the ground. So we can almost paint this abstractly in a way. And then around these colors, then it starts to get a little more neutral, right? So if I'm starting to add a bit of these kind of dark colors, you see around. And by the way, my paint does something strange. I may have to switch to a different piece of paper. This looks like it's been expired. I was sure I took a brand new one, but this is from an older sheet. So we'll switch, don't worry. So, and then we're going to very gently paint in between to kind of trap the lights, okay? See, this is a good live demo of what happens when the paper is kind of getting tired and it loses some of the binding. Actually, it's a very common phenomenon. So now you know what it looks like, okay? So we already kind of have a shape here for the cars, right? And you can't really tell what you're looking at, but you can see a hint of the composition, right? That's what matters more here. And then I'm going to start bringing in more of this kind of warmth to here, to the top of this car. Again, this is fairly abstract stuff, okay? It's not meant to really look like something yet. And we're gonna bring this black again through some of these colors, maybe a bit of the violet here, just to create a bit more of a contrast where the darks need to be. So we'll get something like this. Maybe there is a bit of light on the road itself. Something like this, the bottom of this car. And you can tell almost from afar it starts to have this, not finished look at all, but like an abstract form to it. Now, we're gonna add a bit of this here. I actually am thinking of adding a bit of coolness here. I said I don't know if blue has its place, maybe just in small touches. So there we go, that's your blue. And we're going to, I think, bit more darkness here. Trap this car. And I think that's good for a first shot. Now, of course, just to bring out some of the smaller, not even details, but just guiding lights, if you will. We can just take a bit of paint, or you could do this with like a white gel pen or anything at all, and just go for it and start placing some of these lights that recede into the distance. And also you could build a bit on that red just for the tail lights, just to show you compositionally where they're gonna be. This is, again, this isn't meant to look like the thing. It's just meant to show you where things are. And actually, it's a good thing we wasted our first attempt on this paper that actually has gone bad. And this is where in the previous attempt, I kind of did this thing where I started doing the swooshes of paint. That again, it's a matter of taste and what you're kind of after in your paint, in your paintings, but like these swooshes of paint just to show the speed. Okay, so we have this abstract composition. Let me bring a different sheet. I actually have like a pad, so it's gonna be fast. I don't have to cut anything. We'll just get a pad. There we go. We're doing a hot press day today. So I'm gonna recreate the sketch real fast. Let's go a little larger this time. And again, for variety's sake, even though the first attempt, I don't like that it was on paper that's gone bad. This second attempt, let's do wet and wet. Okay, just for variety's sake. I want to feel what the different technique will do. Okay, so we have this car here that's a little more in the distance. Again, it's more of a boxy shape, kind of like this. This goes down like that. I don't really, again, care for the specifics here. All I'm trying to do is figure out a very basic composition. The light, the horizon line, stuff like that. And we're good to go. Okay, so let's try a different approach this time. Let's do wet and wet. So what I'm gonna do, and wet does work well in hot press paper because the water tends to stay on the surface for longer. And it rewards more of wet work because hot press paper tends to be notoriously uneven drying. So if you look at my sheen here, you can see it's soaked. Let me just check here. We're good. It's pretty much soaked. I'm gonna go make another run at it just to make sure it's really wet. And we can do pretty much the same thing. So we're gonna start here with this section. And again, this is still abstract composition. It's not really specific details because it's a really good way of figuring out what the final thing may look like. So I put a bit of red. I'm gonna put a bit of yellow next to it, and that's how we're gonna start building, see, our color composition. And these are the like the light versions of the colors. Okay, these are the light value areas of the painting. Okay, a bit of red here for the tail lights. It's more of an abstract thing really, but this red does reflect down here. Okay, so now we're starting to figure out the placement of stuff. The paint is still really wet and workable. I would say it's too wet to do proper like controlled wet and wet, but we can start mapping out fairly abstractly where maybe some darker areas are in a way that won't interfere too much with the points we do want to keep fairly lighter compared to the rest. Okay, so I would probably take this red and just go ahead and make it a little stronger, actually, around here. The yellow doesn't need any strengthening, it looks good. And then I'm gonna go back to my gray well. I'm gonna add a bit of all of my different colors pretty much, a bit of blue too. And we're gonna start kind of sculpting out shapes. Okay, it's still too early again for controlled wet and wet, but we can start sculpting out shapes, very general shapes. So I'm gonna kind of squint my eyes and see what I'm seeing and try and figure out what's important enough that when my eyes are squinting and when I look from afar, I still notice. And I would say this top corner being a little more a little stronger and darker is definitely something I'm noticing. Same for this area that's quite, I would actually go into the brown here just to make this more complementary with the yellow. So kind of wrapping the light here. And if you feel like you lost it, you can bring it back. You see, that's the beauty with hot press paper, actually. It's much easier for that kind of a thing. So we have this big composition. Now let's see if things are starting to be close to dry enough to really establish the differences in values. So I want to start trapping the red. So the way I'm going to do this is I'll just start putting in darks around it. And there's a good area of darks around it that you can really trap it. This goes really cool here, almost, the sky and the dark sky, right? It's a black color, but it's really, it starts going a little cooler around this area. And then I would say it goes back into warm, oops, that happens, a little warmer around these areas back here. And down under the car, I'll go for another kind of cool. Now, cool is just neutral in this instance because, again, everything is warm in this scene. This is definitely like dark, right? Now, one thing you want to make sure is, I think we can, let's see what happens if we come back with some water here at the center of this red shape and see if we can kind of lighten it up just a bit. And that's how I experiment. Like I try something and I see if it makes sense. Sometimes it won't make sense, right? Sometimes it will feel weird, right? But sometimes it does make sense and then I can continue with it. So around the tail lights, we're gonna have a bit of, again, stronger red, but still quite light. And now we can start really darkening some things that we need to be darker. So I'm just using, again, a lot of lunar black. So this section right here, and then the corners of the painting, I can utilize a bit of this brown once again to really trap the focus on the kind of center. And you could, by the way, you could grab like almost a dry brush and help it blend. Let's see, I don't normally do this. Let's see what happens if we kind of just blend it to like that with a dry brush. I know it is possible, just to make the transition between them a little smoother. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. You have to be careful about this thing because you're also at the risk of lifting stuff off the paper. Just know that. Now, the windshield for this car is darker, but it's also lighter because it's in the context of the lighter section that's filled with red. Okay. By the way I achieved a lot of this in the original painting I did a while ago that you've seen that I posted as a community post, the way I achieved some of this was with pastels, because pastels you can just layer over the watercolor, and what it does is it creates a foggy layer on top of it. And I'm all for, you know, if you find a tool that that makes your process easier than doing it with watercolor like this, then, you know, by all means you go for it. That's the thing. Like, you don't want to force yourself to make life harder. That's something I'm starting to learn. Same with like masking fluid. Like I'm experimenting a lot more with it now, just to make my life a lot easier. By the way, sorry, this is like so demanding. I can barely look at the chat, so I know I'm not seeing anything. My apologies. I'm gonna look at some of your messages in a second, but I do want to make sure I trap these cars and the light properly. This goes a little darker. This entire side of the car goes a little darker, so I can probably go like this. This whole thing down to here is a little stronger. Down here it goes a little, again, neutrally cool, so I want to kind of preserve that. The road, you can leave a bit of a highlight here for this line kind of marking on the road if you want. Now this color, let me see. So this is really red, but it's a darker red. So let's see if I can kind of get that. See, this is red. Like so. And it's a mess, right? You can see it's a mess, but The idea is, can I figure out where to place things and if I even got the colors I want? Because one thing I will say is the colors are, I'm not sure about the colors. Let's see if we can improve it. Let's see if we can push things to go a little more like we want in terms of the colors. Let's see. This is why I have to do this prep session for this painting, because it's a tough one. You see what I mean? So yeah, I think this kind of tames that bit of paint here. And then maybe we can start just darkening around it. So we have this start. I'll have to kind of focus on a spot or two for a while and see what comes out of it. And we don't have nearly enough room to actually put in details, of course. But just in terms of the overall shapes, right? I'm sweating on paper. Let's see. I have my fan going. Why is it so hot here? Give me a second. I think this will be better. I need to have a towel next to me when I paint sometimes. But there we go. Oh, now it's nice. Now I feel it. And let me switch over to a smaller brush and see if I can kind of make something out of this. I'm starting to think maybe I'll do a different approach. We'll do another iteration with a different approach. I'm not sure what it is yet, but we'll do it. And you could, that's the thing I'm trying to avoid. You could work on this in a slower glaze by glaze approach. That's the thing, I don't want to do that. I have done this before for night scenes. I don't want to. I want to get it in a faster pace kind of a situation, which is why we're here. So let's try something different. Okay, let's try something else. What I want to try is maybe focus on a section of a car and see if I can get the everything to look right there. Okay, let's not try to paint the whole thing. I'm gonna try something different just for a second. So we have this car on the left. Oh, I can look at some of your messages. Good morning from Jacksonville, Moscow Cowboy. Nice to see you. Thank you for being here. Fuse blower or watercolor is great for cheating. I add colored pencils and markers all the time. Wildlife rocks. Liron, you mentioned using pastels. Do you specify oil-based or soft pastels? I think the ones I used were oil-based, because that's the ones I have here. Polly's Art. Curious, what's the brand of the hot press paper? It's Arch, just a purple Arch thing. The pink block of Arch. Hot press 300 grams. Moscow Cowboy, can you just do a strong underpainting to establish all those bright colors first? I could, but that's the thing I don't want to do, because then you'll have a hard time kind of wrapping around them. You could, I'd rather avoid it if I can. That's the thing, right? There are a lot of ways in which I've been doing things for years that I'm trying to move past. And this is the kind of process I go through to move past them. So now you know that if you are at some point going to see this painting, for example, and it will look like really good and polished, that's because of all of these experimentations. Because it's really challenging sometimes to figure these things out. I could use more water. I could do a lot of things. I'm trying, So this is the back of the car on the left. I want to see if I can at least get some of the sections here to make sense. So let's see if I can do that. I'm sorry the reference photo is not zoomed in, but we'll kind of have to work with it because I can't really, it'll take time to change it now. But yeah, so the license plate, whatever, it's not as important. So this color right here, and I actually have like a little viewfinder. I don't remember where it is. But it's really like a kind of neutral gray. So let's see if I can get that little effect on the back of the car. I don't know if you see this, but there's this little, it goes from warm to cool in a really nice way. So this area right here, there's gonna be a smooth transition. And then I'm gonna use this warm, kind of warm-ish yellow to establish the top part where that transition is starting to occur. Sometimes you just need to change your approach. Something may not work. I really want to make this approach work, so I'll try again. But But you know, at some point I have to try something different for a moment here. And then we have this more neutral kind of gray feel. Let's see if this makes sense. Yeah, this makes sense. So it kind of turns gray. I'd say a bit more blue in it. A little more neutral. I think a lot more blue actually. Oops, you can't see some of it, sorry, my bad. Let's see what happens if I add a bit of this. So this goes up to here. And then you have this smooth transition where the bottom part is just a dark. I'm just trying to figure out what kind of a either composition or form will help to represent this part. Should have gave more of a warning that this is going to be a bit of a struggle session. Yeah, so this goes here. Now this does go a little warmer and darker on the right side. We can kind of start establishing that, but we don't have to go too far, just with this area here. And then this goes a little warmer too up above because it starts to connect to this area that faces up, and we start having the tail lights next to us too, so that kind of influences the thing. And we end up with this fairly neutral, I think, just dark that I can put in fairly strong right out the gate. So if I do this, it's not even strong enough, but see, so if I do this, it's probably stronger, and this goes straight into the background too, so you could just kind of extend and expand this, I think, all the way out to here, but I don't want to make this wash unpaintable and too huge of a wash. I'm just going to fade the edges out, and then underneath we have a really dark value, so the tires are, I mean, not that dark, but the tires are going to start, you know, there's going to be something really much more shadowy underneath. And once you get the full context for this, it should start making sense. So for example, there's a lot of darks here in the taillight, but then the few lights that are there are gonna make the taillights make sense. So if I go like this, just establishing some of the darks, but then I immediately go to some of the stronger lights, which I can use kind of an orange for. So that's going to be around here and around the highlights, because you do want to leave like a perfectly white highlight, right? So you can kind of get there, or you could just cover the whole thing and then bring it back with a white gel pen once again, or something like this. But you see, I'm just trying to figure out if some areas here I can kind of figure out how to paint. And think about it like this, in the full context of a scene, this would make sense, right? So if I, just for experiment's sake, we're gonna turn this into a weird abstract thing. That's gonna be too small. Let's go with this one. So just for fun, we can almost wrap this in just dark paint all around, and it would put some things, not everything, but some things in context. So if everything is dark, then the body of the car becomes light, right? And again, with hot press paper, you sometimes need to push it with multiple kind of passes with the color. But you see how it makes this car look like it's lighter. Of course, I haven't put in any details, and we don't really need them, but like if you put the license plate, you know, it starts to make a little sense in that regard and whatnot. And of course, all the small details, it doesn't matter. I'm just showing you to show you where they are, like all of these small things. So the question is, how can you get this thing to work in one go? Let me show you once again, because this isn't that bad, and the larger version, you see, so getting these things to work is the tricky bit for me. Now the question is, maybe we can dump all of that aside and kind of just work with a more intuitive approach that doesn't really try to necessarily recreate this. We can give it a try. Now let me see here. Yeah, good. So this is on the actual block, I believe. So this is not going to have that same problem, which is good for us. Now I wonder if I could use another section of this page that hasn't gone bad, because sometimes just one section goes bad. I'm not sure actually what I'm looking at. Well, let's try. Let's give it a try. Let's do another kind of loose attempt. That's the thing. Sometimes for these scenes, you have to almost try until things connect. There's a lot of... For most of my paintings, it's not like that. It's not like a lot of, like 10 attempts. But for this kind of a painting, it just about is the kind of painting that you would maybe end up doing these many attempts. At least I would, right? Not everyone will have to. Some artists are masters of night scenes. I'm not one of them at all. That's something I want to work on. Hey, Tia Sketches, how are you doing? Thank you for being here. Hey, name in Russian. I can't read. Gonna use the masking fluid for lights. Not right now. For the final one, for the final piece, I will use it probably, or I'll just use opaque paint, just depending on my mood. It could be either, but yeah. I do initially plan on doing that. I'll lay them on top. Yeah, Moscow Cowboy. You could lay the light highlights on top. You could do that. You could do that too. Again, this is kind of me exploring. I would really like to crack a way of doing this that isn't overworked or slowly done. That's the thing. So we're gonna have another go at it. I think the starting wet approach does work a little better. So we'll try and go with that. This is a little larger, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm gonna pre-wet the whole thing once again. This is the point where you would mask before, right? If you wanna make sure that some things stay pristine paper white, right? But let's see. Let's start with the more of an underpainting approach, just to see. You see some sections here aren't taking the paint that well, but that's fine. Most of it is okay. Let's actually start with an almost underpainting approach. Let's mix in another red here. So let's say we'll start really light. If you want, I can bring afterwards some pastels and show you how I did the other painting. Just to show you how that kind of a thing would work. It's not really that difficult to pull off. But yeah, so I'll start fairly light here for now. And let's go for a looser approach just for this beginning of the wash. Let's see what happens. So kind of combine the whole thing. Maybe we can try and do like an underpainting for the whole scene. See this? This is where the paint, what do you call it? I forgot, the binding kind of went bad. You can see it here. In this area, it works really well. It's okay. So yeah, you could do this kind of a thing. You could let it dry. That's the thing I don't want to do, right? That's more of my choice. You could do that and then slowly build up on that. What I'm trying to do is really, let's see here. So there's this red. That's the lightest red, and it needs to also be quite saturated. So let's see if I can get this more saturated without compromising on the value, so I don't darken it too much. Let's try this out. That's the advantage of wet and wet. You can kind of paint into it a bunch of times. And then as we move to here, I'm just trying to isolate the paint I'm seeing. We do switch over to a darker version of that red. So it still is a red, but it's kind of a darker version. And let me bring back some of the yellow just here. And then let's see if we can get a gradual kind of transition from the red to the sky. So just very gradually start darkening and seeing if it works. I'm trying to see if there's an aspect of this painting that I can get right and then use for the full-sized painting. So even if we kind of ignore some other sections here, I just want to see if some things may end up proving themselves useful. So kind of more gradually going from light to dark. Again, I would really like to avoid a more overworked approach in layers and glazes and small sections. Trying to move beyond that for a lot of my paintings. This is definitely not like the easiest thing to achieve with. But yeah. So I think this at least works a little better. Just a little bit better. And then, okay, so can I blend this transition all the way from the dark to the super light in the middle? I wonder. Let's see if I can maybe try and do that. So if I go stronger in between, so the flow is not that good because of the paper's artifact, but it should be able to work. And then we have that neutral back of the car. Let me exaggerate it just a bit with a bit more blue. Not phthalo blue though, because that'll be the end of it. See, something like this. Can you get it in one go is what I want to really figure out. Can you get it in one go? I mean, of course you can. The question is how. Can you get it not by painting the small details? Now, you know, funny enough, you can do something a little crazy here. Crazy, not really. And start establishing some highlights while it's still wet, just to get a better picture of the highlight profile of this painting. And then later take care of the shadows. So for example, we have the taillights here, so we have a really obvious taillight here, right? You can start bringing it out if you want to. And just remember that most of the lights are not the red, they're the white that's in the center. There's a white in the center and it's surrounded by reds. That's usually how these things work. Now we don't have enough room for all the details, so I'm just going to use a dot or two. We have some highlights on the side here. This entire car is a highlight that I kind of been having a hard time leaving behind. And then we have a couple of these on the, what do you call it, the hood of our car. And then if you want to bring out some more of these street lights, then here's the one in the center. And these recede back. Now that you have this, you could, in theory, start painting around that if you want, and see if you maintain the impression you're after. So what do I mean by that? If I get just a bit of this red that's relatively clean, can I make the area around the light, or do I even want to change it? I'm not sure. If it's really close to it, maybe I'll leave it. Just maybe around here. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't, but just show that there is a red around it. There's a bit of a red here. And these strong reds are really difficult to paint. Like what you're seeing on the hood of the car, like down here, it's a really vibrant color. I'm not sure how you would approach it in watercolor unless you're working in small glazes. I'm not sure. But let's start pushing the darks a bit. We could do, by the way, a black and white study and see if it gets us closer if we eliminate colors. You want to do that? Maybe we'll do that next. So now we can start introducing a bit of details to put the highlights in a better context. Okay, so let's see if we can make it look almost like the thing, right? So right now it's abstract. Maybe we can make it look more like the thing it is. So this goes a little brown here on the right. I would say there's a lot of orangey almost. Let's bring in a bit of red, yellow here. A bit of orangey even. And it kind of starts around here. Moves there. I'm really looking forward to sharing with you a finished painting of this scene, just because then it will make all of these, what we're doing right now, steps mean a lot more. You understand why, right? Because that's exactly the point of the research and almost struggle in finding what works. So I'll be very happy to share with you like a finished version of this that actually looks really decent. So we'll see about that. Hopefully I'm able to do it. So this kind of, all the darks reflect down. And then we can almost ignore the background for now and just focus on the cars for a moment or two. You could also lift now. So for example, there's a few details like this, for example. If you want to bring that out, I'm not going to start using opaque paint now for every little detail. You could just come back with a bit of water and almost lift back. So this antenna thing, right, you can start bringing it out. Of course, it's going to be a little blurry, but if we were working larger, it wouldn't have been. And then there is obviously, these windows are darker, so that gives you more of the information about the shape of the car. And then under this car that's fairly light, we have a shadow, and the back window, or whatever you call it, is there. And for this car, things are dry, so we can't really do much. Let's stay with a dark red and see what happens. Okay, so we'll do this. We'll add a bit of yellow. I just want to see if darkening it with just a red will make sense colors-wise. And we'll preserve some kind of an impression of there is radiant light, right? I don't want to cheat just yet and use, I'm saying this jokingly, of course, it's not really cheating, but I don't want to cheat just yet and use pastels. I want to see if I can get this with watercolor. And this is just a part of this experiment. It's going to take a while, it seems, to nail down the how. So I'm going to add a bit of violet, a bit of yellow, and then a touch of blue, just to cool it off around this area. Actually, I want to lighten it too. It should be lighter. So something like this, and let's see if we can get away with painting this kind of I'm going to leave behind some of these lights, but can we get away with painting these slightly darker areas? And can we embed a bit of black around, that's too strong, around the taillights, just to hint. Let's go for the dark here. So there's this really dark shape around the license plate, something like this, right? And you can see how this car almost began to appear, but almost. It's not really there yet. And then underneath it, it just looks like a red. So actually before that, let's see if this would make sense. Just a red under here. See, it's a mess. For the tail light, we can do this kind of a thing here. I don't know if the license plate will have any value painted over what's there, but we can try. Now, if you had just pastels, you could go over the whole thing, really, and lighten it up instantly because it physically covers the watercolor. That's the thing. I think we'll take a pause here and we'll try a black and white version. I don't even think I transferred it over here. Hey, Ryan, hey, how are you? Good morning from Sarasota. Fuse blower, note how the yellow pushes into the red, but not the other way around. Yeah, that happens often. It depends on the pigment, it depends on wetness, it depends on a bunch of stuff you have to kind of experiment with. I'm no master at knowing in advance where the colors are going to move. Are you using transparent iron oxide? It doesn't look like it on paper, but it kind of does on the palette. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure actually. Yes, some colors I think of as bully colors. It's true. Fuse blower, some colors can't stand each other. Even when mixed, they separate on the paper, giving interesting textures. Yeah, that's true. Especially if you use this kind of lunar, kind of granulating lunar black. Mr. Shibasaki uses the back of the brush to scratch away paint for twigs and antennas. So yeah, I love the way he paints. So let's set this aside. and try to go for a black and white experiment. Now, I don't have the black and white version of the pic here, so I'm going to send it over to myself real quick. Here it's fairly straightforward. I'll just switch it over. And let's see if just seeing this in black and white can maybe inspire me to capture some of these, because it looks a little wet in the black and white version, funny enough. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that, if you see it the same way rather, but it looks a little wet. So let's see. I'm gonna save the photo. We'll see. You know, black and white is always easier for me. It's just that this is such a challenging scene that I don't know if it'll make a difference here. But let's see. It could be a window into figuring out how to paint this. So let's see here. It could be also that everything should be darker and I'm kind of missing the plot with that. So I'm gonna connect the two. And by the way, thank you so much for being here, everyone. If you care to drop a like, it really helps the video get to more people after the live stream ends, so I would be super grateful. Ryan, yeah, it's so interesting how they behave and all the different properties they have depending on what they're made of. Yeah, true. Cheryl, hey Cheryl, how are you doing? Good morning, Liron. Just waking up to you. Got back from Pace Lake Tahoe and tagged on an extra trip to visit family and friends. Oh, fun. Took me through Mount Zion National Park. So many incredible views to paint. That's really cool. That's great. That looks like a wonderful experience. I looked at the Pace homepage. So yeah, I definitely am considering going. So I'm gonna clean my palette because I need just black and white now. Let's see if seeing this in black and white would help get things a little more accurately. I suspect it might. I don't know if it's the values, but something about this to me right now is not going where I want. So it's good. It's fine. It points a starking kind of spotlight on what I should be working on. That's something I should talk about in a dedicated video, but it's very different to paint stuff you feel very very accustomed to, and very it's not just confident, it's like you get it, right? It's scenes that you get, it's patterns of light and shadow that you get. It's very different to do that and to actually try like a really different thing. So let's see. I'm gonna go with wet and wet once again. Just to, let's see if I need to move stuff around. I can actually move this because you don't need to see the other palette now that it's only black and white. And I do have my water mister sprayer next to me so that I can just kind of keep things wet. Because now that I look at it in black and white, it does look like a lot of these areas they look a little wet. You know, I don't know how to explain it, but now they look a little wet. So let's start. Pretty much everything here is a little darker, so even the highlights, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cover the whole thing probably. I don't even need to skip any highlights really. I could if I want to just leave a couple, but honestly I'll just do this. It could be a good way of just figuring out the scene in black and white, and maybe later it will help me work on it in color. We'll see. Maybe I'll leave this car a little lighter back there. Like this is an interesting bit, right? So this is dark, but then the bottom part is light. And this entire thing is dark. The entire hood is darker. And then from here, you know, we can spray a bit for good measure, but we're pretty okay. We can start pushing things to be as dark as necessary. So, and again, I don't have to think about color at all right now, so that's really useful. I might end up just ignoring the highlights for now, just so that I can actually carve out the shapes I want. So let's see, if I can focus just on shapes, it's a different ball game to me. It's a lot simpler. You can slowly feel things connecting when you're more accustomed to painting this way. So yeah. So this entire area is lighter. Now it's going to dry much lighter anyway. Let's flip this over so that we don't have colors when we clean the brush. This kind of reflected light feeling is so elusive. I'm really not sure how to capture it. So I can start darkening this. Everything that is really smooth, slow transition from light to dark tends to be a big challenge in watercolor. I want to say for me, but like from the feedback I get from many people. So it's not just to me for sure. And you don't have to do it this way, what I'm doing right now. You could work wet on dry too, if you're going to paint just with values. Let's see. Now that I notice a bit of an interesting pattern here. So the middle of this windshield is a little lighter, and then the sides are a little darker. That makes sense because we do have, and it's a bit early to again start putting in like really obvious details because the paint's still gonna move quite a bit, but just to give a hint of it, that's what I'm kind of seeing. Now, if you do want to start map out like a big shape, I think this is a better place to begin because you have room to kind of move the brush and the paint's not gonna be too intrusive. And here it goes quite strong too. Here it starts to go lighter as it goes up. Around this car, you know, everything is pretty much darker. So we're gonna wrap around here. And again, we can kind of ignore the highlights. We could leave them if we want to, but we could ignore them too. Let's say that this side of the car does go a little darker for most of it. Now let's say that here's the windshield here. So this would be a bit similar to the painting I did a while back, the rainy kind of car in the rain I did in a live stream. That was a long time ago. And it's in the 100 Cars book too. See, this here needs to be darker in the middle. By the way, I don't know if this will be easier to paint on cold press paper. I have no idea. I'll have to try it out. We'll see. Now the question is like, what do we do next? Where do we go? Because we can go many places here. I think I'll try to make sure any large color value transitions are taken care of. And then we can start mapping out details. Because if we don't take care of the smoother transitions now, it's going to dry and it will be really hard to recreate them. So for example, this is darker and it goes lighter as it moves up. This is a little darker here, kind of in the corner. Again, this is so different from painting in just a sunlit scene. That's the thing. It's so different when you paint in the sun. Here you have big chunks of big shapes that have just all these smooth transitions to them that I'm definitely not a master of yet. So I think this is okay. And we can start mapping out some more of the focal point. So I'm going to start with this car on the left because I don't know, I feel like I have a better read on it than the other car. So we'll get this glass here. And this might need another touch, we'll see. Probably will, but for now I'm just trying to establish the shape. And again, without all the baggage of color, this is a lot simpler. The center part is a little darker. What am I hearing? I'm hearing plastic. What is that? I'm sure it doesn't go through the camera. It's like I have a piece of tape somewhere that's slowly falling off. And then we have this tire. Of course, my drawing is really rough too, but that shouldn't be a big deal for these kinds of scenes. But hopefully the car begins to appear with these little steps I'm taking, you know. And this part down here. Okay, I'm moving the I'm moving the desk. It's me. Um, yeah, as I suspect, I think this part could be stronger. And then maybe we can just smoothen out the edge here a bit, like so. Maybe like this. Let's see if we can start mapping in a couple of... sometimes I find that what you allow to dry and what you kind of try to keep wet are a little arbitrary. It's kind of what you made it in time to paint. And the things that have dried will still kind of work out on their own. Just something that I noticed sometimes. So then we have a bit of a darker shadow under this car. The taillights do go stronger, you know, even though there's highlights in them, they are darker. So that's something you do want to include. By the way, maybe I'll zoom in just a bit. Let me zoom in a bit. Hopefully I don't mess it up. Yeah, just like that, because you don't have to see the rest of my palette anyway. So the taillights do go a little stronger, and what's gonna make it look like a light is once we make them, you know, lighter. Basically, we put a highlight there. That can come later. We have this tire. We have this tire a little larger. You could use this opportunity to just place this little. I think I'll probably do more studies of this black and white, just because with the color it's a little complex for me, I'll admit. If I can get like a really good version of this in color, I know I can do the same for black and white at some point. So let's push this to be darker. And this is not, we don't have the luxury of like a pencil drawing where you can gradually darken stuff in small areas. This is all about flow. Not to say you can't achieve something with, you know, with little flow that looks good. That's fine, but I'm trying for flow here, you know. So this entire thing can go darker. That's one of the things I could have kind of... By the way, one thing you can do is decide you ignore the specifics of what you're seeing and just kind of paint the scene. You can go fully dark on everything if you want to. Maybe we could try that. I don't know. I think I have another attempt in me after this one. We'll see. We'll see about that. Now, under this part, we do have this very dark bit. So let's try and get that in around the license plate all the way to here. And at this point, you're fine if things dry on you. It's actually not that big of a deal. You could almost do this wet on dry. It'll look decent. So, you know, just if you're facing a similar issue and you're kind of trying to paint a simpler version of maybe a complex scene, just know that. So this goes here. This cuts into this. This moves down. There is a bit of a darker kind of shadow shape there. Sorry, I'm not perfect at verbalizing everything I'm doing and seeing because it's just a lot, you know. And then I would say this doesn't need to be much darker, but it does need to be darker. So and more like clear, I would say. So this shape here, and of course like this, the background could be, you know, this could be a little darker. Now, how do I get it darker without kind of lifting a bunch of stuff and making a big mess? That's a bit of a different question, but we'll see. Dry brush and just kind of scrub it on the paper. Yeah, I think I definitely have another experiment of this in me. So now just to get the taillights, it's gonna be this kind of a thing. And you know, sometimes it's a matter of almost mood and inspiration. And if the scene gives you the impression you want at this moment or not. Sometimes it just doesn't, and then it's okay, but you kind of have to tackle it later on. I definitely want to tackle this one. So yeah, I think this is fine for this attempt. Maybe just get this little contrast down here. So we have the car, so it does have the windshield or the glass up top, and then it does have a shadow underneath, and it does have a tail light, and then we have another car right behind it like this that also has a shadow underneath it, and hopefully that kind of tells the story. And yeah, it's a messy car. This car does not work here. I'll have to figure it out for the next attempt. But to make things a little easier just for this one, I could add the highlights just real quick with a gel pen, just to show you. So we have a bit of it here, right? I don't know if it comes through, but I think it does. We have a bit of it here. And we do have it here, but I haven't wrapped it in enough dark, so it won't make sense. And that's my, I think, biggest sin here with this painting, with this side of the painting, right? I'm gonna need actual watercolor for this. So let's do it again. One thing I could try, let's do another wet and wet. Ooh, I have a good one for you. Let's do another wet and wet, but see if we can paint it directly with black and white. So I'm gonna use my white paint freely. And let's see if it helps us produce the desired impression. But in any case, this is the mess that is this attempt. Sorry. Let's see if we can get a bit of a better one here. This isn't dark enough. That's the thing. It doesn't even matter. So let's do another one. I'll get another piece of paper. Let's read some of your comments. Ryan, this is kind of a gimmick, but I always wanted to move a magnet around underneath lunar Mars black, and if it drags the iron particles around in order to manipulate it. Ooh, I don't know. Will that work? I have no idea. It would be interesting. I would have never thought of that. That's actually pretty genius. Let's see. Cheryl says Liron paste will be in the Ozarks. Yeah, I saw it. I'll be there. Hope you can make it so we can paint plein air together. Yeah, I really hope to do that. CC, I love the 100 Cars book. Thank you so much. Jan's art wet on wet is definitely easier on cold press. Yeah, it might be. Yeah. Fuseblower brand of paper is also a factor. I feel Fabriano is better for wet. Arch feels a bit dry to me. Good for detail. Interesting. I don't know. I feel Arch is okay in cold press for wet and wet. By the way, Ryan, I watched one of those ambient walking around videos in Havana, and now I'm obsessed with going to Cuba to paint plein air. Yeah, it's good, and Alvaro Castanet is a big inspiration for that. Has anyone from the US ever been? Might be dangerous now. Ooh, I don't know if it's dangerous. I'm not sure. My father-in-law did a vacation in Havana a couple of years, like a lot of years ago, but not that many. I don't think it was a decade ago. Ryan, just because, I'm continuing, just because they keep losing power and stuff, I don't know. I love the juxtaposition of the colonial architecture with the bleak concrete brutalism. Yeah, I get that. Handy, okay, initial wash done. Concerned about how I'll manage to darken the grays all around the scene now, and the red and yellow highlights are into. Awesome. Fuse blower, that black doesn't seem to diffuse a lot in the background. Yeah, and that's fine. It's not meant to diffuse a lot. You just need to know how to control it. And that's definitely something I can improve. Or you know what? That's actually smart. Let's try something. Let's try another abstract. We can actually do it here just for the fun of it. So if I were to, that's actually an interesting experiment to do. So what if I were to map out, not even draw the cars really, just do this and that, really simple. But then what if I pre-wet the whole thing? I haven't thought of doing it this way. So I pre-wet the whole thing. It's fine if my water is a little gray actually. I'm gonna open the door for Ruth in a second. She wants out. And then what if you're correct? Maybe if I do this, if I just put like really dark paint here, like this, in all the areas where the paint is darkest, maybe. And then I almost try and let it do the work for me. So if I spray a bit of water and move it around, maybe I won't have to work hard to blend stuff. That's actually a good idea. And I think it would be easier to do in a larger piece. That's always something I kind of need to remind myself, that watercolor can paint itself, even when it comes to just overall shapes. Okay, like this goes darker for sure, actually. And this here, and this here, maybe this here too. Just again, in the abstract, maybe it would be beneficial to kind of let it do its thing, let it dry, and then work with what you got. That's actually a smart idea. I'm gonna credit you fuse blower if I do end up making it work this way. Let's let this dry for a moment. I'm going to open the door for Ruth. So that's it. Go ahead. Good doggo. So let's set this one aside. I do like the idea of letting it move for a bit, but yeah. Maybe then you can work with beautiful smooth transitions and it kind of makes up for the... Maybe I was going about it the whole wrong way. Let's see. Let's get another... You see, this is nice, actually. This I like. This kind of works. But let's see. Okay, guess what? That was the last one here. I ran out of it. So that's the one, by the way, you asked about. That's the one I was using. So we'll just grab one of the loose ones that were problematic so far. But the way to fix that is to, by the way, what time it is? Okay, 4:30. The way to, this is actually Saunders Waterford loose sheet. I'm going to focus again on the center of the paper to make sure it's hasn't lost its binding. And I'll let Ruth in again because, of course, or not, she's fine. Okay, one more attempt, and I think we will wrap it up. We'll do a bit of a chat and Q&A if you want, but in terms of the process, I think we'll be done. So I'm going to use black and white here for this one, and we'll see how it goes. And maybe let's try to combine everything we kind of went through. Maybe also not be too focused on what I'm seeing and thinking about how I can make it a little more accessible and look still good. So we'll see about that. And again, you always have the option to just work really slowly. That's something it's important to remember. And just go more for a controlled kind of multiple layers approach. I just don't want to do that. Again, you always have that option. So let's just go ahead real fast and do the alternative way of pre-wetting. And I'm gonna start. Let's just go for it. You know what? Let's just go for it. So let the paint kind of move. See the pattern? Because I pre-wet with the, what's it called, you know? The sprayer. It gets that kind of effect in. Obviously this is a little kind of lighter section, but let's prioritize just it kind of flowing and looking neat over control and see what happens. Okay, could work, could not work, who knows. So yeah, so I'm just kind of gonna go for it. So now actually looks really cool. I think I can work with this. I think this could work. So I'm gonna darken this corner, but again, I'm not gonna overwork it. This corner is darker, that's fine. I'm gonna darken the bottom, kind of like this. And let's kind of ask ourselves what the painting needs really, instead of trying to force what I'm seeing in the picture. So this definitely connects with the background. Something like that. And here we definitely have this transition into a darker section on the right. So you can do that and kind of connect it with the tire. And we can kind of move the paint around a bit, I don't know, just for fun. You could also just now at this point go really zoomed in and get it, get the details in if you want. Let's see what happens if I do a hybrid approach. So this is a dark. This is kind of the dark detail at the back of the car. And if I were to actually start bringing out the shape of the cars a bit more, I do this. I would darken this area too. around here. And this area too, but then we can, hopefully you're not tired of seeing this same kind of scene painted over and over again. That's kind of what you go through when you tackle something really challenging like this. It looks kind of cool. And then let's kind of be bold. This goes here. Of course, it would look a little better with a more accurate drawing. That's for sure. We can do that experiment maybe in the future. This should be thinner, this whole section, but it's too late. I've done this mistake for all the previous ones too, so it's fine. Go strong here. Go strong there. And let's see if we can now bring in a bit of the white just directly. Sometimes it's fun. I don't know how it'll work in this kind of a scene, but let's see if we can make use of it. So what I'm gonna do is start with something I'm clear about. Like I know that this is a light, right? So I'm gonna put this light down. And I know that I can use this to kind of convey a light, and it's kind of a light, right? And then these lights go far back, and they kind of have this nice shining pattern to them. And then I know that this is going to be a highlight, but also dark, so I'm going to place these in. I know that this section is a little lighter. I know there are a few touches of highlight here and there. I know there's a major highlight here for the tail lights. There's a big one here too. Kind of connected, and it's, of course, it's a little too late to actually see it, but I'm just placing it down so we can paint around it, kind of. And then you can almost spread out that light a bit. Don't know if it will work because this is opaque paint, so it should work. And then if you go back to the more just black dark type, you can of color, you can start maybe. And you know, some of it could be related to the drawing. Like if I were really to take more of time to draw, could make the process a little easier. I just don't feel like putting an emphasis on it right now. I don't want to do that. But yeah. Bit of it here. This only makes me want to nail this scene down even more. If I'm being honest, this only makes me really want to do like 20 more attempts until it looks good. I'm starting to lose focus, so I'm going to stop probably here. That's fine. Let's do this. I want to help the paint move a bit sideways. I don't know why it feels like the right thing to do. Either this direction or that direction, doesn't really matter. Yeah, let's see if we can kind of close in on the focal point. So I'm going to darken things around the cars. It's going to be one of those scenes that's going to elude me for a while until I get it. Oh. I'll do a proper one with a better drawing, I think, black and white, and see where it takes me. I think I'll drop it here. It has a nice, weird, abstract quality to it. So I'm going to place this here. I'm going to switch over there. Oh, and by the way, yeah, so this is nice, right? Again, I don't know if you could work with that, and I don't know how you would work with that, but it's nice. And then we have these that were just a bad paper. You see, it didn't even mix at all. So that's what happens when the paper goes bad. And we have these ones, right? Which, again, this I painted more like what I'm used to, just smaller sections, so it looks a little more close to it's not perfect or anything, but it looks a little closer, right, to what you would hope to get. So let's bring it back here to the face. Yes, so as you've seen, a bit of a challenging one, right? And this is why I wanted to do this. So if you look at my wall, I can actually bring it. Let me show you. I have two of these. So I have this one, which is nice. There you go. And I actually have a larger version, and that's the one I put in the community post of this video. Let me show you that one too. It's a bit of a larger one. Let's get this out of here. I'll show you. We'll show you the original one. Let's make this pic a bit smaller, because I want to show you the ones that did work well for me. And again, a lot of it is done with the help of pastels, but you'll see in a second if I find it. I have a lot of paintings in this binder. One second. Kind of feel like I should have seen it by now. Maybe it's not even here. Maybe it's here. I don't remember. Let's see. I'll find it. Don't worry. I'll find it. In the meantime, if you have any questions, yeah, there it is. Okay. Yeah. So this is the one that I feel like I kind of got pretty close with these cars. You see here. This is actually a bit of a different scene, believe it or not. I'm just showing you because it's in the same vein. Now, when I show you the scan of this, you'll see it a little better. But this was achieved with a lot of pastels, oil pastels. And this was achieved with masking tape. Let me show you. And to me, again, it's not the most, and this is the one I showed you earlier, right? And to me, it's like not the most graceful way to paint. So ideally, I do want to crack this and figure out like how to do it properly. So in watercolor, let's see here. I'm not even sure where it's, like in a video, in a YouTube video folder, but let's see. Submission. Let's see. Where did I put this one in particular? I mean, I used it for the post. I just don't remember where the file is. Wait a second. Give me a second. I want to show you the scan because it's... I know what it's called. I'll find it. Okay, yeah. So it's this one. Got it. I got it. Browse. And this is the one. Okay. So especially on the left-hand side, right? That car that's right around here. Like, I really like that and the car behind it. I think these work well. Also the bus on the other side. Right, so this was one of those cases where I did get the fuzz to look the way I wanted. But of course, again, there is a lot of pastels here, which I'm not against. I kind of like the effect of the pastels around like the moving lights, because it's a highway and things are moving. I like the swooshes. My only problem is I would have loved to achieve like this effect, these smooth transitions, to get them other places. I'm not quite sure how to do it just yet. You can even see a bit of the exhaust on the other car that's more inside the piece. I believe not this one, but the one in the middle is a Tesla, I think, the smaller one. But yeah, that's where we're at. Let me see what you're saying in the chat. Okay. So yeah, so Fusible already said that like doesn't seem to diffuse, and that's kind of the thing I might be able to make use of. If I'm able to help it move, then you don't really need to control these smooth transitions from light to dark. Ryan, I love how the texture of Fabriano Artistico looks, especially when it's done. However, sometimes I find it harder to work on. I feel like ours is slightly more forgiving. Yeah, I prefer Sandro's Waterford over all of these, but ours is a close second to me personally. Fabriano, I had a hit and miss. The hot press of Fabriano, I did like more. Yes, I have. Wait a second. Where's my window? There we go. Okay. Henny, I think the best way to tackle it is go gray lightly everywhere, then yellow and red highlights. Ooh, that, I don't know if it'll work. I can try. But now darkening the grays is tricky, yeah. Oh, Pam says hi to Ruth. Wildlife Rocks, could you glaze color over the tonal study? I think it'll turn out almost like a black and white photo that you kind of paint over with transparent colors. I don't think I'll personally like how it looks. I could try. I could try in the video too, because I will do a video on this scene, but it will look almost like a very gray, like an old newspaper photo where you painted with colored pencils over it. So yeah. Mark, what a treat I managed to get to demo live. Yes, thank you for being here, Mark. And you caught one of the like roughest demos. I knew it's gonna be a tough one. I got thirsty from the effort and not effort, but like the focus, being engaged with it. CC is not tired of it. The process, however laborious, is what so many tutorials like, but not yours. Therefore, I always return. Thank you. Yeah, I try to show all of these weird struggles. You know, when I paint something like this, it's created in a very clean environment. Sometimes it's like, it's just me and the paper, and I work like multiple, sometimes attempts if it's a really tough one, and then one of them clicks. And it's very slow sometimes, and it's meticulous sometimes it's more spontaneous, but a lot of it is really in isolation. And you know, sometimes when I talk, it doesn't affect the result one bit, and sometimes it does. It's really a hit or miss. I don't think it really affected it this time. I just have a lot to work on. But yeah, very happy to hear CC's. Ryan, I always wanted to do a nocturne as well, but haven't attempted it yet. It's on my list of unrealized ideas though. I do want to try Indenthrone Blue for the night sky. That could work. CC's Indenthrone Blue is wonderful, and Quinacridone Sienna can neutralize it well if I remember correctly. Cool. A Fuse Blower Indenthrone is very staining. Good for an underpainting because it won't lift, but hard to get a flat wash with. Interesting. Moscow Cowboy, I wonder if you could do that dark value study, then lift out the dark spot so you can lay in light on top of it. You could, that's the thing, you could do this a million different ways. I find that lifting is sometimes really difficult. Sometimes it's a more effective way to achieve the effect you want, and it could very well be in this instance, by the way. It could very well be. I'm not sure. I'll have to try it out. I'll definitely report on my findings. Because if you need something that is still quite dark, then the fact that it's not easy to lift is actually a place to your favor, right? So yeah, could definitely work. Some good ideas here. I'll have to try it. Ryan, oh, thanks for the tip. I bought a tube recently, but haven't experimented. Oh, the Indenthrone. Wonder how the Indenthrone will be trying to make and preserve the glow around streetlights. Interesting, yeah. Moscow Cowboy Atomizer would be really cool to see with this type of composition. Have you ever tried it? Yeah, I have. I have used it now. If we're talking about the same thing. Turn up the microphone. Yeah, it's just, I don't know why it's low actually. I have no idea. I can try talking more into it, but that sometimes makes the sound strange. Could try getting it closer to my face. But yeah, sorry about that. I'll try and have it fixed for next time. Maybe I can, I could try something and maybe you tell me if it improves it. Let's see here. So if I do this, does my volume turn up? Let's check. Now it could be maybe a little higher because now I have both channels open, but I do know that live streaming only exports or only outputs one channel. So let's see here. I have mine high too, and I don't. Let's see. I'm listening now to see if it actually did something. Okay, yeah, that's better. That's better. I'll do this next time. That's a good solution. Yeah, sorry about that. It's just double channels. It's the same audio coming from 2 channels into one. So maybe it's better now. Henny, are those the more chalky pastels, not the oil ones? I think it's the oil ones. I think it's the. They look chalky, but it's the oil ones. Oh, you know what? Let's check. I have them here. Let's see. I think I still have them. Okay, so yeah, I use these. This is just a Reeves soft pastel. So this doesn't look like oil, it's just soft pastel. I don't know what that is, but that for sure I used, like I used this red here. And let's see the other brand that I don't remember. Oh wait, that's not it. It's been like a year since I used them. I think I might not. No, yeah, that's the only one. I had another one, but I actually just gave it away. I think I gave it away. But that's the one. So it's not oil, my bad. My bad. Let's see. Ryan, yeah, I really like working on Saunders Waterford as well. Totally agree. Sometimes I don't like the texture because it's too regular or machined. Yeah, I get what you mean. To me, Fabriano sometimes feels really machined. It's a good way of saying it. Cheryl, is there a reason why you use oil pastels versus software? You meant soft pastels probably. So it turns out I use soft pastels. I had another pack of oil pastels which I gave away because I don't use them. Ryan, have you ever used the oil pastels to make a resist effect? So maybe the regular pastels to make a resist effect. You mean like a place where the water doesn't get to the paper, doesn't take, and that's what you mean? I've never used it. Wildlife Rocks, thank you for letting me know. Melanie, thank you for sharing your time and your talent. Thank you so much. Yeah, so as you see, I have a lot to improve still with my watercolors, and it's good, it makes me happy. These are the types of scenes that not a lot of people try and paint, you know, like this is, what is this? This is craziness, you know, when everything is dark and you have these really smooth transitions, and it's really tough. Like, look at these don't work really well. So I don't know why the weirdo in me wants to master them, you know. I kind of want to. It looks much larger, I think, this painting in real life. The weirdo in me wants to really nail it down. So I'll have to continue experimenting. These are the kinds of things that you won't really find the answer anywhere. I haven't really seen, you know, a tutorial on this specific topic. You could look at demos and hope to catch a glimpse of something, and I probably will. But yeah, these I do really like all of these details, right? That makes sense because it's a storm, but you see how shiny the paper is because of the pastels, and also because of the opaque paint here and there. Like, I think this is just opaque watercolor, and yeah, you can see how shiny it gets in the light. Where's my angle? There we go. See? So, you know, you step out of the realm of watercolor when you do these kinds of things, which isn't bad. To me, it's like, use whatever tools work for you. But I know there's an answer for this that is watercolor, and that's what I'm looking for, you know. I think something about this one does come close in a way, in spots. It will be interesting to further explore. I think what I'll try and do is film every attempt I do for that one where I finally will catch it the way I want it to look. Otherwise, I just won't have it on camera. I think that's what I'll do. I really want to capture the moment where I get it, and then we'll have an interesting painting to show for all the effort, hopefully. So yeah, this is where I'm at. Moscow Cowboy, you're brave to be so humble and allow all of us strangers, you're no strangers to me anymore. All of us strangers critique your work and give you non-professional advice. No, it's great. Like, these are really good ideas, actually. I need also constant reminders that I can kind of let the paint do its thing. Let it, you know, let go and see what happens. And it's a lot easier to do when you paint a, let's just put something on the screen. Let's go for, let's put this for now, just for fun. But I want to show you something, right? Artwork, right? Let's even put this one on the screen. Okay, yeah. So, right, when you look at something like this, that I did the gouache experiment, so I'm disappearing here. When you look at something like this, right? Sorry, there's something something I gotta take care of. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry about that. It's very different to do something like this, right? Where you're working small shapes and you can focus on one shape. So for example, even just this, right? The shadow between the bridge and the road and the cars. You can focus on that section, you can paint it, you can optimize it, you can do a lot of wet and wet. It's constrained, it goes from dark to slightly less dark. It's very different from something like this where you're like, yeah, deal with this entire sky section or the other one that's even worse, you know? And I would just love to figure out the first one, the other one, right? This is like a cakewalk in a way. It's not easy necessarily, and I mess up paintings that are more like this, like strong sunlight, kind of, you know, the more typical. This is even, you know, watercolor and gouache, but I'm gonna give you a watercolor example. I constantly mess up these kinds of paintings too. Let me show you another one, right? So this one, right? I love this green van painting, right? You have so many small fragmented areas to work on. You do have other challenges, of course, like how it all fits together and flow, you know, all of this it still happens, but it's so different, you know. So yeah, I'm trying to go for the not so obvious ones. Let's see. Moscow Cowboy, you can turn up the mic volume in your settings. Yeah, it's turned to the highest. That's why I was having a hard time with it earlier, because it was just turned to the highest. I don't know, I'm looking at it and it's the highest. For some reason though, this microphone is a little low, so now I have it double channel, it works well. The spontaneous natural look is the hardest to get. Yeah, fuse blower, you got that right. We read that. Cheryl, I wonder if pastels would work. I never used them. I haven't too. Moscow Cowboy, perhaps heavy granulating watercolor might do the trick. Holbein has a new set out. Yeah, there's a lot to test out. The lunar black is supposed to be granulating, so you can see it here in the looser attempt, wherever it may be. Yeah, so you can see some of these granulation effects. I don't know why it refuses to focus, but you can see it. But yeah, maybe a heavier one could be. Laura, thanks Liron. It's always interesting to hear your thought processes you paint. Yeah, and it's been a long time coming. I really needed to do another painting demo, albeit a bit messy. Ryan, I think the answer is going to be either super loose wet and wet or super controlled glazing with layers. Maybe you can use a mini airbrush to apply some of the paint. You'd be surprised. Sometimes a hybrid process works even better. But in any case, I think it's time to wrap up. I have to go do some stuff. Thank you so much to everyone who joined. If you can just drop a like, it really helps the video then reach more people. Moscow Cowboy, I just threw this into ChatGPT. I need your advice about watercolor painting. Interesting. We'll see what it says. I use it all the time. We'll see. Thank you, John. Much appreciated, my friend. I know I should reply to your message. I haven't forgotten. And thank you, everyone here. If you sent me an email, if you tried reaching out and I haven't replied, my bad. It will take me time, but I'll get to it. Yeah, things are just busy. I'm doing my best to continue publishing lessons and, you know, posting more stuff. But yeah, very grateful. Very grateful to have you here. Thank you, Janzar. Thank you, Dwayne. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The weekend's almost here. And yeah, if you want to support my work, check out the courses that are going to be linked down below. Frustration-free watercolor. If you haven't gotten it, I would wager a lot of people here got it. But yeah, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon. Till next time.